And it is now time for Play It Forward. And it is Allison who is up. And Allison, how are you
Hello,
doing?
everyone. I'm Allison, and you are listening to Play It Forward on WUSB Stony Brook 90.1 and 107.3 FM. Happy Friday, everyone.
Happy Friday.
All right. I'm joined in studio by my good friend and fierce fellow advocate and his lovely bride, Larry Lamandola, who is co-hosting with me today. Thanks for being here today, Larry. We're diving into a powerful hour about childhood, resilience, and real recovery. Honest, hopeful, and a little bit funny. In just a minute, I'll introduce our guest, Jason Mayo, and the story at the heart of today's show. So stay tuned. But for now, Larry's going to give us a brief look at what Play It Forward is all about.
The Play It Forward project is a nonprofit organization that raises awareness, educates, and advocates in the fight against the opioid crisis, focusing on prevention and recovery through peer-to-peer advocacy. On our show, we feature guests from the field of addiction, individuals in recovery, and more. We discuss illicit drugs, fentanyl, and substance use disorder. And around 2 p.m. we will share some accessible resources. Tune in, please. We broadcast from Stony Brook University's radio station live every other Friday, 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are now live streaming our previous episodes on Spotify podcast under Play It Forward and on our YouTube channel at the Play It Forward Project, where you can listen to our previous shows on the go. And be sure to follow us on Instagram at SBU Play It Forward. Send some questions. Without further ado, here's Allison to introduce our guest.
Thank you, Larry. So today, Larry and I are thrilled to welcome Jason Mayo, writer, dad, and the voice behind the powerful new memoir, In Case of Emergency, Break Childhood. Jason grew up in a Gen X as a latchkey kid who learned to laugh through the hard parts. And this book traces that road from chaos to recovery to showing up for the people he loves. He also leads the community project Sober Not Subtle and partners locally with Thrive to lift up recovery. Jason, welcome to Play It Forward. We're grateful you're here and appreciate the courage and craft that is showcased in this book, the amazing book.
Thank you.
Welcome and congratulations on the book. And also, congratulations on 15 years of being sober. That is quite an accomplishment.
I'm an old man now.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So for our listeners meeting you now, who are you today and what does life in recovery look like for you? Tell our listeners about yourself.
Sure. Well, first of all, how about that voice on Larry?
Yeah, Larry.
Talk about sexy. That's a radio voice right there.
Yes.
I'm still in awe. So,
all right, don't be taking my seat there, Larry.
So, who I am today, I'm still a dad and still a husband, thank God, because my wife probably should have left a long time ago.
Okay.
And my life is pretty simple. Before I was in recovery, I remember thinking that I had no time for anything and running around and everything was important and everybody needed me and I always had to be here and there and there. And then I got sober and I realized that not everybody is waiting for me and not everybody needs me everywhere all at once. So my life is nice and simple. And, just putting others first is like something that I was, never really used to, even though, I was always the one to listen and always the one to try to do stuff for people. I think my motives just weren't there.
Yeah.
So, today in recovery, my motives are in the right place. My heart's in the right place. And it's just good to be able to remember things, too, to be honest, and be of service. So that's who I am today.
That's amazing. I mean, you have, your book is absolutely, it's so well written. It's an easy read, but it's also so honest and raw, and there's a lot of funny parts, which I actually find it quite hard to do because there's really nothing funny about this. But you do interject a lot of humor in there, but you're an amazing writer, and I really applaud you for putting yourself out there. Putting yourself out there. We heard that yesterday in Times Square. Mike Fiore begging people in recovery, tell your story, because we need to normalize this. You're helping to remove the stigma. So I applaud you for that as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
But
Yeah.
what an accomplishment. Tell us about the book and
Sure.
how did it get started? And
Yeah, well, first of all, recovering out loud is definitely not something I was used to. I was in a business. I owned a visual effects and animation company in the city, and I was in that business for 30 years. It's something else that Larry and I kind of have in common, is that business. And drinking and drugs were really a part of the culture.
Yeah.
A lot of martini lunches and a lot of dinners and all that stuff. I had to put in a beer tap at my office because I thought it would be good for morale. That's what I told my partner. It would be good for morale,
Right.
good for the clients. But even with all that, when I got sober and I was still in that business, which was up until 2.5 years ago, I never once posted on Facebook, I'm sober, it's my anniversary.
Yeah.
I didn't tell people I was sober unless they asked or the time was right. So I just kind of went about my own business being sober. And when I switched careers and became a peer advocate and started working at Thrive and FCA, which I'm sure we'll talk about, it wasn't until then that I saw, how much telling your story can really affect someone because of that identification. And I should have known it because I'm a 12-step guy. That's how I got sober. And I think the one thing that helped me the most to get sober and find recovery is to find people that I can identify with. So I know that I'm not alone, that I know that I'm not unique in my story. So, the book, it's just a culmination of that. I don't think I ever would have written the book if I wasn't working at Thrive and in this business, if I hadn't met people like you and Larry and all these great people, because, I feel like it took me a long time to get inspired to write. I've been writing my whole life and writing blogs and writing for publications and stuff, but I went through a really long period of not being inspired. I didn't want to hear myself talk anymore.
Yeah.
Your previous business employ stresses and deadlines were a big factor. I know, just working in radio, I saw that too, and that's where substance is often there all the time.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, definitely. The stress, what I've learned now, doing what I do now, which I absolutely love, is that I definitely create my own stress on top of the normal stress. It's something that I have to continue to work on. But yeah, listen, the business in general is very stressful because there's a lot, clients have a lot riding on stuff. They pay you a lot of money to do stuff, commercials, whatever it is. And, but for me, as a business owner, it was always about being able to pay people, right? And we went through the crash of 2008. We went through September 11th when everybody was closing their doors. And the stress that I had when times were really, really good with business, I worried that people were working too much and they were going to leave or they're going to get burnt out. And when it was really, really slow, I worried that we wouldn't be able to pay them. So that was 24/7 for me.
Plus you were in an industry where it was based upon creative juices.
Yeah.
So,
and that's where like the book and the blog and all that stuff comes in because, as creative as that business was, I was more of a people person. I like to go out and get business and close business, but when it came to the creative stuff, it didn't fill my creative bucket personally, even though we were doing creative things. So I always had to go on my own and do stuff away from work to keep myself creative, and writing was definitely always that thing.
You write a lot of poetry as well, right?
I've written poetry, and I unearthed notebooks from high school and junior high school with poetry when I was researching for the book. And I used to write a dad blog from 2008 to 2016. So prior to the book, I had probably 300 short form posts about personal anecdotes and my kids growing up and stuff that I went through. So it really, when I started writing the book, which was daunting at first, I just said to myself, like, I just have to look at it like a short post. Every chapter is a short post,
If you look at the whole thing, it's too overwhelming.
Oh my God. It didn't start out like supposed to be a book. I talk about it in the preface a little bit, but when I first got sober, my first sponsor in my 12-step program, we went out to H&H Bagels, I think it was, in New York City. Shout out to H&H Bagels, best bagels in New York. But we went and we sat down and we were talking, and he wanted to start taking me through the steps, the 12 steps, and he said to me, your first step assignment, I want you to write down your drinking history. And I said, oh, okay. I mean, just like the times I drank. He's like, no.
That might be hard to remember.
Yeah, he said, I want you to write out your drinking history. So, I'm sure people, if they're asked that question, a lot of people would write some bullet points or maybe some notes or whatever. But I wrote 15 pages. But I narrated it like a story.
Okay.
So I wrote it like a story. And what happened is, I put that thing away on a Google Drive after I read it to him and we went through that. And I never looked at it again. And then about 2 years ago, or a year ago, I was cleaning out my Google Drive and I saw a document and it said drinking history. So I cracked it open, and when I read it, it like shredded me.
Wow, because you were in a raw moment at that time, right?
Yes, and it brought back all the shame and all the guilt, and it really, really, it sat with me in my gut,
What I find interesting is you've been writing all along, so that's why I think, I don't want to put words into your mouth, was it easy to write this book based on that?
Well, to start it was easy, okay? And because what I wanted to do is, if you looked at the 15 pages that I wrote, it went in little sections of my life, from when I was a kid, my parents got divorced, and when I started drinking when I was 13, college. I kind of wrote it like a story. And when I looked at it, I said, like if I just continue writing, I can take that first paragraph about being a kid and maybe I can expand it. And I'll take the part about high school and I'll expand it. So it almost gave me a structure for telling my story. And, when I first started out, my goal was to write a story for the blog, Sober Not Subtle, and to write maybe like 5,000 words. And then I got to 10,000 words, and then 20,000 words, and 30, and then I was like, I put into ChatGPT.
I'm writing a book.
I put into ChatGPT. How long is a memoir? And I was like,
so you were going from like the kid's brain to the young adult's brain to the now brain. To translate it all.
I and the book goes up until there's some flashbacks and flash forwards, but the book goes up until the day I get sober. I just ruined the ending, but the day I do get sober, guys.
But we kind of figured it now too, right? You're looking good.
Yeah, thank you. But it goes up to the day I got sober. So and that was always a thing too. Like I maybe I'm just not ready to write about everything after that, but I thought that the important part for me to communicate was to show people how people can get really, really low on the inside and still not indicate any of that on the outside.
That's a big takeaway. Yeah,
and I think that's kind of what the book tries to do, is because I'm not Matthew Perry, right? And I'm not like Lady Gaga, or I can't write a memoir and have these crazy stories, Hollywood stories, but being just sort of like a normie, or a civilian.
You have a couple of crazy stories.
I have a couple of crazy stories, but I did read Matthew Perry's book, and it was amazing. But there are some things I couldn't. I don't have a personal assistant, So I wanted to write a book that I think that regular people that are living their regular lives that feel, bogged down with the everyday stuff, and might be having some struggles, can relate to, and just say, okay, well, maybe that's a little bit of who I am,
Speaking of regular people with regular lives, us folks here in the room, we speak the same language.
Yeah.
The tough part, I find, personally, is trying to translate our language to what you went through in recovery, what Allison and I and my wife Eileen went through with losing a loved one.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that yourself?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that is a really good question. I think, as far as writing goes, and I always say, I talk to a lot of people about writing, and people that want to submit their stories for Sober Not Subtle, they say, well, I'm not a great writer. How do I tell my story? What do you want? I said, if you write like you talk, then it's going to be great.
Oh.
Right?
I do voice to text. I actually wrote all my school papers that way.
Yeah. And if you write like you talk, and the tone that you give, like I don't think people give themselves enough credit, the ability that they have to communicate themselves if they're just talking like a normal human being that comes across. And as far as the language, I haven't always been in recovery, so I'm still like the same person. I believe truly that, there's a saying, we're not bad people getting good, we're sick people getting well.
Yeah, you have that in the book.
I've always been the same person. I'm just getting well. So, I still communicate the way I used to, and I just feel like the more honest and the more raw you are, you'll be surprised, because we don't know what people are thinking. That's part of the thing, right? We don't know. So I'm sure, when I first met you and I heard your story, like, it blew me away. And I haven't been through the same experiences as you, but I got it. It hit me,
And there's one thing I did want to bring up today. The fact that Jason joined the Levittown Community Action Coalition, we were missing...
Oh, is that how you guys ended up meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, oh wow, I'm glad.
I'd like to say it was a bowling league or something.
Yeah.
But,
we were missing a piece. Jason was that missing piece, because there was nobody in recovery who really could tell the story on an ongoing basis of, well, this is how it is, and this is how I felt when I was going through this. And these are some of the things that you can do, and this is what we got coming up, and what Jason does all the time. I thought that was like, wow, this is great, because when you don't have that, I mean, we have a clinician from the county, we have politicians, we have teachers and social workers, but as I said, Jason definitely filled that void.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I mean, so how is that going?
It's my favorite part of my job.
Really?
Is the coalitions. I belong to a few. The Yes Community Counseling Center. They run the Massapequa Coalition and the Levittown Coalition, and then Family and Children's Association, the company that I work for, that is Harm Reduction Recovery
Dr.
Division.
Jeff Reynolds.
Yeah.
Is
who just came out with a book himself.
Yes.
Every Mile Matters, and I read it, and it's freaking amazing. So
shout out to
Jeff and his book, Every Mile Matters. But the FCA also has a Hempstead and Roosevelt coalition, so I'm on those coalitions as well. And I'm embarrassed to say that even though I had been in recovery for more than a decade when I found Thrive and FCA, I had no idea what was going on behind the scenes. And the boots we have on the ground in the recovery community, people that are in recovery, people that have lost loved ones, people that are just doing it because they want to help people. So when I went to that first Levittown Community Action Coalition, because this is the first one I joined, I was like, I got emotional. Like when I sometimes I talk there and I have to hold back tears, because I look around me and I'm like, these people are in recovery, but they want to help me. And they're doing stuff to help me.
And ironically, it wasn't always that way.
Yeah.
Eileen and I, we date back to 2019 and back to 2017 when our daughter Lisa was in the throes of this. This stuff wasn't out there.
Yeah.
So
and that's not that long ago.
And it just came on the scene, and it's great.
It's amazing. And some coalitions do Zoom because it's hard sometimes for people to meet. The things I love about the Levittown and Massapequa is they meet in person. So you're in a room, just like being in recovery. Like, you meet people that you never thought that you would meet or sit next to and talk to, because it's just everybody has their different world, their different environment. But being in a room with a guy like Larry and politicians and clinicians and parent advocates and superintendents, I mean, it's I would have never had these conversations, and it's such a fulfilling thing to sit there and say, okay, especially in the world that we're living in today, where everything's going nuts and everybody's fighting and all this stuff, I always say, take care of your immediate blast radius, and hopefully it trickles, right? So to be able to sit at a table with Larry and all these people and just try to do something locally, and I'm not as far into it as Larry is. Like, maybe one day he's like my mentor, but to sit there and just think like, wow, like we're actually trying to help the place that we live,
and where you can even see the impact firsthand.
Yeah. You get to speak to the kids and stuff, and we did that, which was nice. We got to go to DC, and I got to see Larry in action talking to local politicians, which is scary when Larry gets going. It's very scary.
Voice.
Allison knows I'm vociferous, and I passion. My bride here knows firsthand.
Wait, hold on.
I'm a passionate guy.
I have to Google vociferous.
I was just gonna say I'm a wordsmith. I
don't
have
know what
like
that
my
means.
little collection of
Yeah.
that is going in my wordsmith journal.
Again, I learned something.
That
every
was
time I-
$1.99 word
Yeah.
today. You know.
Bitcoin. I'd pay you in Bitcoin if I could.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the coalitions is literally one of my favorite parts of the job that I do, and I have a lot of favorite parts. So it
Wow.
says something.
You're an amazing person, and how you turned your life around. I mean, so your family must be so proud of you. What are their thoughts? Tell how do they feel about the book?
Well, I have two daughters. One is 18, and we're taking her back to college for her sophomore year. And the other one just turned 23, and she's an elementary school teacher. So I'm very,
Wow.
very proud of her, and very proud of my little one, too. She's not little. They're 18 and 23.
Yeah.
But I don't think my daughters would ever let me know that they're proud of me because they keep me in line.
Okay.
Right? Like, just when I think I'm the cool dad, they take me down a notch
Yeah.
in a loving way.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah.
My wife has been the most supportive person ever. I mean, she always has been, and the people that know my wife, they're always like, she's amazing. Like, because she's always the one that calls to check in on people. She's always the one that gets people together. She's always the one that remembers everybody's birthday. But, the support that she gives me in my recovery, whether it's just saying, you need to go to a meeting, like I can tell,
Yeah.
or giving me a coin at my anniversary, or, just being interested in the people that I talk to. She is so supportive, and I can tell that, she's happy for me, and
That-
it makes her happy too.
She sounds like an amazing woman.
She's
And
awesome.
I love the way you described in the book when you first met her.
Oh my God.
On the stairs, right?
Yeah, yep.
And the way it gave me chills.
Yeah.
And you just knew by looking at her, like, I think she's the one.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
You want to hear a story that
Yeah.
is not in the book? So when my wife and I were first dating, we were home from school, or maybe it was right after. She was younger than me, so she hadn't graduated yet. And she met my friends from home, my best friends. And my best friend in the world did not like her at first.
Oh.
I think it was because he was my best friend, and it was like, oh, now he has a serious, what's going on
Yeah,
here?
yeah.
So we got into a little argument when she wasn't around, and what I did, and we were both still living at home, but we were at his house, and I found a notepad, and I wrote on a piece of paper, I will marry Ronnie, and her last name at the time, I will marry, Ronnie. And I took it and I folded it up and I put it in an envelope and I sealed it and I put it underneath his junk drawer and forgot about it. And on the day of my wedding,
No way.
my best friend
No way.
handed me an envelope, okay? And I was like, what's this? And I opened it up and he was like, you were right.
Oh, you just gave me tons
Yeah,
of
I got
goosebumps.
goosebumps, too.
Oh,
Little
wow.
ironies of life.
Yeah, but so I was like,
What a coincidence.
I won. But yeah, it was
That's
crazy.
great.
It's crazy.
Wow. So the book is coming out September 9th.
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
where can people get it?
Okay, so right now the ebook is available on Amazon for pre-order, and it's, I feel like a salesperson.
Yeah, go
and it's
for it.
99 cents for pre-order. So
Okay.
if you want an ebook for less than $1, go for it. You can pre-order on Amazon, and then on September 9th, the book drops, and that'll be the paperback, and the ebook will go live, and you can get that. And then eventually it'll be on BarnesandNoble.com, Apple Books. It'll be everywhere you can find books that you would want to find books. So that's hopefully.
Have you thought about singing Paperback Writer?
Yeah.
Along
Yeah, we just lost half of the audience. They're like, "What's paper?"
Sure.
Yeah. No, actually, we
Showing
have
my age.
we have some listeners that would know that for sure. But what an amazing accomplishment! I'm
you.
so happy for you, and this must be so exciting and a little surreal, right?
Surreal's definitely a good word. It's exciting, and it's also sort of terrifying, because working with individuals and working with groups and friends and family knowing that you're in recovery is one thing, but putting it out there into the world to strangers,
Yeah.
and not only about recovery, like I think the book is about substance use disorder and addiction, and it's about recovery, but I'd say if I had to describe, I'd say it's way more about mental health than it is about addiction. I always say my mental health has a drinking problem. And I've heard Jeff Reynolds say that mental health is the gateway drug to addiction.
Yeah,
okay?
I've heard that too.
For people, that's something I've never talked about, not even with my wife. And until recently, never even honest with a therapist. But to talk about how, vulnerable and how broken I felt at the time is way more scary than telling people I don't drink anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's very uncomfortable for someone to hear, oh, you wanted to kill yourself? Like, how? I never thought. I thought you were happy. Like, it's hard,
Yeah.
So maybe the easiest way I could do it was to write it. But I've had a lot of people that have read the book early, like text me or email me or reach out to me and say, and some of these people are people that knew me, but first of all, like, I'm so sorry that you went through that. And even like best friend being like, I had no idea, like, what could I have done? And I'm like,
that must have been amazing for you to hear what, like the people that you grew up with that are actually in the book, which you say you change names around and stuff like that. But that must have been like, I can't wait to hear what they're going to say, or like wow.
It's been a lot. I mean, it's been very, it's been heartening to know that people get it and they're aware. But again, a lot of these people I don't think have really, they might have dealt with some mental health concerns on their own, but to hear somebody's story in such detail, I think that a lot of my friends are way more aware of why I'm doing what I do now and where I came from. Because it's like, oh, Jay quit his job and now he works with people at the jail. It's like, I don't know if people understand really why I did it.
Hence speaking the language.
Yeah, speaking the language, right? So I feel really good when somebody does say something to me, not about like the book, but just about like, hey, I'm sorry you went through that. Or just because it means like they're connecting.
Yeah.
And again, terrifying, but it's nice.
It must feel good too, like a sense of relief, like, wow, everybody knows, and like, I'm still here, I'm still
scared.
Yeah. I mean,
I remember at one of the first coalition meeting after Jason finished the book, I said, are you okay? Yeah. I had to ask you, are you okay? It was almost like you did this.
Yeah.
But then weeks after, I was like, oh, he looks like Jason again. Yeah. You didn't? Yeah. Did you feel? You felt that way, right?
Oh well, I cried like snot, crying like every single time I sat down to write the book, which sometimes was at home. I have a cabin upstate, so sometimes I'd go up there alone. I'd sit at this coffee shop that I love, and I would just write, and I would just cry because you were saying before we went on the air, so how do you remember all that stuff? And for me, this is my analogy, right? So Larry will remember this. So Larry, remember when we had records and CDs or whatever?
Oh yeah.
And you used to go and you used to pick out the one you wanted and you'd open it, you put it on, you'd sit and you'd listen to it, and then you'd look through all the records again, you'd get another one. So you had access to all that stuff because it was in front of you, okay? So now that we have Spotify and all these streaming services.
Oh, music.
I don't have all that stuff in front of me, like visibly.
Yeah.
So I listen to the same damn songs and the same 5 albums I listen to over and over and over again because I never remember that I have that other music. So for me, writing was like that, right? So when I'm just talking to a therapist or a friend, there are things that are on my mind at the time, and I'm usually talking about the same stuff, or I'm talking about my day, or like I was upset about this. But when I sat down to write and I really had to think about the different times in my life, it was like looking at the records, right? Like all of those memories came back to me. They've always been there, but I wasn't able to access them. And, writing did for me what talking never could have done. And, it was hard. Like it was cathartic and it was...
I was just going to say, it sounds very cathartic.
Yeah, but it was hard. Like I was messed up for about 8 months. I was messed up.
Because you're like almost reliving it.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
Picking scabs is a huge deal, especially for someone in recovery, or someone that lives with depression, to feel those feelings again. But I'd never talked about it.
Yeah.
Even in therapy, even today, like even talking to a sponsor, so I never talked about like the specific things about like when my parents got divorced or you know
Yeah.
how I felt in school with the other kid. Like I didn't talk about that when I was
But
getting,
you don't
getting
realize
sober.
then the effect it actually will have on you.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because I really took to heart the beginning years
Mm-hmm.
of where your story really evolves and when your parents got divorced and you were 9 years old.
Yeah.
And
Well, my mom says I was 7 when they got separated. So, but I don't know. Anyway,
but you were
yeah,
young.
I was very young.
And we also we have to go back clinically to developing brain.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
we don't
yeah.
we don't often focus in
No.
on this enough.
No.
right.
Your brain was just developing, and
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
what was
Hardly.
happening.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about trauma, okay,
Yeah.
and I just took an informed trauma class, Trauma 101 for peers or whatever it was called. I was in the city yesterday. It was an amazing class, amazing instructors.
Really? Okay. Wow.
But, trauma for me, okay, before I learned about trauma and how to identify it, how to deal with it, it was, veterans coming home from war
Yeah.
with a leg blown off. It was about domestic violence. It was about stuff like that. And for me, I never, ever thought that I had a trauma. I thought that I maybe was messed up because my parents got divorced, but I did not know that was trauma. And, we learned about the ACEs test. It's called the ACEs
Yes.
test, right? So
Yep.
the ACEs test is, it's 10 questions and it's about childhood trauma. And it wasn't originally about that, but it's about childhood trauma. And, you answer 10 questions, and depending on how many you answer yes to, that's the level of trauma that you might have. And I think I got I answered yes to 4 of them. And the things that I answered yes to, like divorced family or dysfunctional home or, mental health concerns in the family, like I never looked at that as trauma.
Trauma, yeah.
So to know and accept and understand that I lived with trauma as a child, and that's kind of like who I am right now,
It almost makes everything make sense.
it makes it make sense. And,
Yeah.
trauma's a big deal.
It is,
It
and
doesn't
it-
go away.
Yeah.
You can heal, but it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
We often look at scar tissue on our skin,
Yeah.
scar tissue up in our brain.
Yeah.
It stays with you.
The instructor said yesterday, talking about people with trauma and how you have to be aware of people when they're walking into a room, especially in a clinical setting or
Yeah.
a setting like us. You have to be really aware of the
almost
person
inevitable.
that's walking in, right? So they said, imagine a bear burst into the room right now to attack you. Like the feeling that you have when you see that bear.
Fight
The
or
person
flight.
that has the trauma, the bear is always following them. Always following
So it's
them.
always there.
It's always there. And I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense to me,
Wow.
So yeah, trauma was a big deal,
And
it
this
still
was
is.
a class that you went to yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
How?
I
So
love
we're
taking
always
away stuff.
learning.
Always learning.
Right.
Well, and interestingly, and I'm not changing the subject,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I definitely want to bring this because interestingly, Larry and I and Eileen, his beautiful bride, as he would say,
Chime in anytime, dear.
And I can't see her. I wish Larry would trade places with her so I can look at her.
we were in Times Square yesterday. Yesterday was National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day. Created 4th year, right? Created by Andrea Thomas,
Yes.
who is the an amazing person who created this amazing event.
Allison, there were people above our pay grade.
Oh,
there
boy.
yesterday.
Way-
I mean, Jason, the people what we do is we do some really good stuff, but
Yeah.
these are folks that created nonprofits and board members.
Yeah.
And we could speak about Kamal.
Oh,
Uh,
Kamal. Shout out to Kamal Brouani. Amazing man, a good friend of ours. He lost his son, Ethan, to fentanyl poisoning when he was 22 years old. In fact, his birthday was just the day before the event. And but he gave a speech yesterday, and it was pretty powerful. And he made a big announcement.
Right. He started a new
Non-
nonprofit,
Yes.
Armor.
Families, and I learned that it's an acronym. Armor, ARMOUR. 4 pillars stands for addiction, resilience, momentum, opportunity, urgency, responsibility. United to eliminate fentanyl poisonings and overdoses. So Kamal,
If you listen, just listening to him yesterday,
Yeah.
he's so measured, and the way he speaks with purpose, and like he's got the goal there.
oh yeah, and he's a powerful businessman,
Yes.
and he is really, him and Andrea, and shout out to Colin, formed a new nonprofit, like we said, Armor Families, and he launched it yesterday in Times Square, and to a backdrop of a billboard, right? I wish I have it posted all on my social media, but it was so powerful to see that yesterday, right?
Exactly.
All
it was right up there, and it showed the website, and
a lot of quotes like, this has killed more people than war, all the wars combined, COVID, and it was a real call to action. But what was really pretty amazing was all the people there. We all stood for hours side by side.
Yeah.
The chief medical examiner of New York City
yeah.
was there to speak. Everybody that spoke was amazing.
Yeah, they all had their own niche. I mean,
Yeah.
and you talk about the chief medical examiner. He kind of talked about taking action quicker, especially. You could expand on that, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, everything seems to take so long when it comes to all this bureaucracy and the red tape, and they were just like, we got to do this a lot faster,
Right, and getting it out there to save lives.
The statistics,
that's
really,
the purpose, yeah.
right? Yeah, I mean, well, so why don't we touch upon the sector that you're in, right, with Thrive?
Yep.
Because this event yesterday, I mean, even though it's about fentanyl, it's about just mostly talk to your kids. Everybody be honest with each other. Let's have these important conversations.
Yep.
Tell us about your work with Thrive.
Yeah, so, when I first wanted to consider leaving the business that I was in, guys my age and Larry's age, although Larry's a little younger than me, I think, you say to yourself, you've been in a business for a really long time, and you say, what's my transferable skills? Like, how am I going to do anything that's not what this is? Like, nobody's going to want me. Nobody's this. So I started looking around, and I was introduced to a woman named Alexis, who used to work at FCA, who was a certified recovery peer advocate, right? So that's the New York State name for a recovery coach, basically, a peer advocate. And, I wanted to do something that maybe would be fulfilling, that I can be passionate about.
And that's, I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
it's something you get certified in.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's different from KSAC?
Yeah, KSAC is clinical. So I wound up finding that profession, and one of the first places that I talked to, Alexis told me, "Hey, listen, I work at this place called Thrive. You should meet this guy Ryan and this woman Carrie," and so gave me these emails, and they both returned the email right away. And Ryan, who's the director of recovery services, he's in charge of all the Thrives. He let me come in and talk to him. I was there probably an hour and a half, just talking to him about the profession, meeting the people that were there, and it just blew me away. And Thrive and FCA is the oldest not-for-profit on Long Island. I've been around for like 140 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But so with Thrive, I wish Thrive was around when I was trying to get sober, because to me, in its simplest form, it's a safe, substance-free place that people can come and hang out. And it's not clinical, it's not an outpatient, it's not housing, it's just a place that people can go from the community. You can be in recovery, you can be curious about recovery, you can be friends, family of someone in recovery, it doesn't matter, but they can walk in and they can sit there and feel safe. You can play pool, you can watch a movie. We have recovery coaches that are people like me that are certified to talk to people one-on-one in recovery. And we just meet people where they're at. We don't tell them, you need to go here, you need to do this,
Yeah.
or if you don't get sober, you're going to die. That's not what we do. We say, hey, where are you at, and how can I help you get to where you
Yeah.
want to go? And it's very simple.
Just simple human compassion.
Simple human compassion.
It's interesting what you said at the get-go, and I know who you're referring to, Alexis.
Yeah, amazing.
I met her at an all-day seminar,
Yeah.
and she comes up to me, and she knew my last name.
Oh, yeah, I knew it was.
She said to me, I knew Lisa and our daughter. And just these few words. She said she really wanted it.
Oh,
and I'm like, of course, I got on the phone with Eileen afterwards. I'm driving home in tears.
That must have been hard.
Yeah.
You connected with the right person who
Absolutely.
really cares.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I heard her
Larry,
speak that day, too,
so
at the
sorry,
seminar.
Larry and Eileen.
But, you know, as hard as that might have been to hear, it was probably good to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, just to hear anything as honest as that.
Oh,
Like,
God, yeah.
Alexis, if she ran for president of the United States of America, I would vote for her in a heartbeat.
She
That's how,
is,
how
you know,
great she is.
She's just like got the blinders on and like, don't bother me.
She's focused.
I'm right
She
there.
moves mountains.
That's what I was very impressed with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you know, just with Thrive again, it's like, so everything's free, which is amazing. You know, you can sign in if you want, you know, so we can keep in touch with her. You don't have to. You know, nobody's going to bug you or ask you for insurance or anything like that. And we have workshops and classes. So there's things like journaling and meditation and yoga. I run a dad meeting every Tuesday night. I do it at the Yes Community Counseling Center at 6 o'clock every Tuesday, where it's just dads in recovery.
Really?
That you could be in recovery from anything. It could be disordered eating. It can be substances. It doesn't make a difference.
Okay.
We don't care. You know, and you can come in, you can do all that stuff for free, or you can sit down with a recovery coach once a week or whatever it is for free. And it's just amazing. And the greatest thing about being a part of Thrive is I have access to all of the resources of Family and Children's Association.
Wow.
So I never have to tell anyone, I don't think I can help you. I can say, I can help you. Give me a minute. Let me make a phone call or shoot someone a text, and I will get right back to you.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, FCA helps every single vulnerable population on Long Island. You can't think of one thing that they don't do. So anything that we can't do at Thrive, you know, I can turn to FCA.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's
You're
awesome.
in the right place.
Such the best place for me. Like,
This is your calling
it's the easiest job I've ever had in my life.
because you love it.
Yeah.
And you're good at it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I there's just like I play, you know, video games with participants and I get paid for it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You know, the only hard work I do is when I go to that coalition, I have to sit next to Larry and listen to him for an hour.
And hear this windbag pontificate.
That's when I'm like, I need a raise. This is ridiculous. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, everybody has to read this book. It is so well written, and I was just like flying through it, and I'm so upset because I have it on my Kindle. I put it the PDF on my Kindle, and I had a whole bunch of highlights. I'm trying to remember some anecdotes, but it's didn't format correctly, so I'm just going to go off my memory. But
and you don't read code, so unfortunately, you can't do that.
But yeah, I mean, what did it feel like when you were done? What did that? Did you have did you have a celebratory author thing or
writing the book was kind of like my bottoms in, you know, my addiction. It's like just when I thought I was done, I had another bottom. So I remember I wanted to. There's this place called the Catskill Coffee Lodge, and right by where I have my house upstate. And I love it. I love going in there. It's right on a river, like literally on a river. So you could sit there and you can look at the river. You can go outside and sit on the river. And I said, I want to finish this book. You know, I want to be like, you know, Hemingway or Charles Bukowski or some like romantic thing where I'm sitting in a coffee shop and finishing my book. So I went there and I finished the book, and, you know, and I went up to them and said, I just wrote a book and I finished it in your place, and they gave me a couple of Rice Krispie treats. But I finished the book there, and then, you know, about 3 or 4 days later, I'm sitting in the cabin with my wife, and I was like, you know what, I need to write another chapter. And I wrote this chapter. It's called I Want You to Want Me. And it's about,
from Cheap Trick,
Yes.
which you listened. I mean, that was my favorite album too. So
yeah, and
one of the
it
things
comes
we have
from
in common.
this tape that I used to listen to when
Yes.
we would go up to my dad's house every other weekend or whatever it was in his car, and he would put this tape
Datsun.
on. Yeah, the Datsun B210. And, you know, it was just, I talk about my family a lot, and I talk about my mom, and I talk about my dad, and sometimes it doesn't sound very flattering, but it's not what I think about who they are today, because I have a lot more hindsight. But when I was a kid, this is how it made me feel.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, I go, you know, like my dad, I love my dad very much, and we're pretty close, and he's very supportive of my recovery too. And I said, I feel like I almost vilify him a little bit. And I had this epiphany where I started to remember all these good things about my relationship with him when I was a kid. And I was like, holy cow, I got to write this chapter, because I want people to see that it wasn't all doom and gloom. There's other stuff.
Yeah.
And, that stuff was just as important as the other stuff that affected me. So I went back and I wrote this chapter about myself and my dad. And I was so happy that I wrote it, because...
Is it in the book?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's the first chapter in part 2.
Okay.
And it's it's one of my favorite chapters, because it's so nostalgic to me. Just like the music that we're listening to, and him making breakfast in the morning. I can just picture
with
it.
Neil Diamond playing.
It was just, and I'm so glad I wrote it, and I'm so glad he was able to read it.
Oh, that's the chapter when you're making pancakes.
Yeah, making pancakes
and blasting Neil Diamond, and Dominique was saying turn it down lower, and yeah.
It was anyway. So I finished the book and I felt amazing, and then I felt like I needed to keep going. So, but yeah, finishing the book was, it was a little overwhelming, because I never intended to write a book. I've been writing blogs for, almost 15 years or whatever it is, and I never ever once pictured that I would write a book. So to finish it and take a step back and say, wow, it's almost like legacy for me, for my kids and my family, is
something to pass on.
Yeah, it'll always be there, for better or for worse,
So let me ask you a question. Are you going to come out with a T-shirt that says "Will work for Rice Krispie treats"?
Yeah, I could. There's 2 coffee shops, right? So one is Soul Brew, that's in Belmore, and I did a lot of writing there too. And there's something about coffee, and thank you for the coffee, by the way.
Oh, sure.
There's something about coffee, and there's something just because I used to drink and I used to do drugs, right? And even smoking cigarettes. When I quit smoking, which is a year before I stopped doing drugs and drinking, just that I needed something to do, right? So for me, coffee has become that something. It's like a routine. It's comfortable. So, there was something about sitting in that coffee shop, and just finishing stuff. And, it's...
Did you write it on with a pen, or did you use your computer, or?
I used my laptop or any computer that was in front of me.
Okay. Voice to text, did you ever do that?
Not really voice to text, but a lot of time... Funny enough, what I did, the process for me was, before I actually started writing, from when I found that thing on my hard drive, is I started making up titles. And when I made up the titles, it's because the title helps me remember an idea. So I would go back to the titles, and then I would start writing about the idea that I had that I remember from the title.
So it would trigger you.
Yeah, it would trigger me. I text myself a lot, when I'm writing a blog post or when I'm writing. So, but it started with the title. So I still have probably 10 or 20 titles that
and your
never
titles
made it to
are
the book.
Great. They very catchy, and it makes the reader want to be oh, I got to read this chapter. How does this fit with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My oldest daughter just started reading the book. My mom read it, my dad read it, my wife read it. They were the first people, one of the first people to read it. And my daughter's is different. My youngest won't read it until she can have it in her hand. She's I'm just going to wait for the paperback. I'm okay. But my daughter, she's reading. She reads out the name of one of the chapters, which has I don't know.
Yeah, don't curse, please.
Not a curse, but it's it's
there is some salty language.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It's a slang. It's a slang word, like a juvenile slang word for one of the female parts of the body.
Oh.
And it has that in it, and she reads that out.
Very juvenile.
She's like, "What is this?" I was just read the chapter. So yeah, the chapters to me were a fun way to just try to draw people in. What would I want to read if I was reading a book?
Yeah, and another thing I want to ask you about before we wrap it up, we got a little bit more time. Tell us about the cover, and tell us about the title.
Okay.
You talk about titles, but how did you come up with the title of the book?
Nobody has ever asked me that.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
okay,
and
cool.
I was kind of waiting for someone to ask me about it.
Oh wow, this is a big moment.
The title and just somebody asked me about it,
Okay, here we go.
So my dad had so it's called In Case of Emergency, Break Childhood, and on the cover it's a picture of the old school fire alarm box that you have to shatter to get the axe or whatever it was, or pull the fire alarm, and when I was, because that is not the first title that I picked by any means. I had a lot of depressing titles.
Okay.
It was just like about, feeling how I felt. And I was like, I don't even want to read this. It's too depressing. So what I was trying to do is, a big part of it is about being Gen X, right? Generation X. And a big part of it is about growing up in the 70s and the 80s. And I wanted something on the cover that had to do with bringing back memories of being a kid.
For sure.
So at first I was thinking about lockers and stuff with like, that beige pinkish color of schools and stuff like that. I thought about like a mixtape, and I thought about all these things. And, the fire alarm thing came to my mind. So, of course, when I thought of the fire alarm thing, I said, in case of emergency, break glass. And I was like, I had all these different words that I kept plugging in. And break childhood came to me, and originally on the cover it was just me as an illustration sitting in the box.
In the box, okay.
Right, which also was, my publisher was like, it looks like, because it was illustrated, they're like, it looks like a Cub Scout manual. I was like, okay, thanks, I liked it. But so what that means to me is, a lot of it is really discovering the trauma of my childhood and how broken I was. And, just the act and the thought of breaking the glass open is sort of like, to me, breaking open my childhood.
Yeah, and let's really look at it for what
it
is.
Yeah, and just like, and the urgency of it, in case of emergency, break childhood, is really just going to say, to me it says like, this is going to hurt and this is going to be unpleasant, but in order to heal, we have to break things in order to build them up.
Wow.
So that's how that came together, and I kind of like it.
I love it.
I could equate this to like a songwriter. When songwriters write songs, and I'm sure Alison can relate to this, you go through this cathartic thing where you just mentioned it. Yeah. It's like, I'll go through, this word doesn't work, that word doesn't work. Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
Writing the chapter titles and working on, because I mocked up a lot of the stuff. Like, I'm one of those people that like, nobody can do it like I can do it, so I have to do it. Okay. But I definitely was like mocking stuff up, but coming up with something like the title and the cover, like and the chapter titles for my creative brain was like, that was definitely the most fun part of the book.
That I would imagine that would be.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was pretty cool.
The cover, I love the cover, the illustrations, and just like the colors, and I would imagine that's so hard to do, but it came out great. And it's on our social media, and of course,
thank you for
Jason's. That. Yeah, I mean, very impressive.
Thank you.
It must be really a cool feeling.
I plug it wherever I go.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
So we have a few minutes left. For our listeners, what's the biggest takeaway from your book? If you could sum it up in one sentence, sell your book right now to our listeners.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the biggest takeaway is, you don't have to sit in it, and you don't have to be miserable. People are there to help. And, I just encourage people to talk about stuff, not to be embarrassed, not to be ashamed. Because what waits for you on the other side, if you do the work and you're honest, is a much better life. And just real quick, I want to plug the Sober Not Subtle, which is a website that I created as a platform for people in recovery or professionals.
You do a lot.
Yeah, it's just a platform to help people tell their story.
It's a great website. I've been to it.
So like, and that kind of goes back to the book, is like just encouraging people to tell their story, and it doesn't have to be to the whole world, but it has to be to someone, and that people can heal. Like, it's possible to heal.
We have a lot in common, because that's our goal for this show. Is we want our listeners to feel like they're not alone. Storytelling in this capacity is so important.
Yeah, and I thank you for what you do, and Larry, for what you guys do, because again, as a person in recovery, it means a lot that I know that we have support from people just out in the community too. And I'm a fan of the show. So when you reached out to me, and thanks, Larry, I was like, I want to be on that show.
Oh, wow.
I've listened to that before.
Really nice.
So,
you got to go on Alison's show.
Oh,
so
thanks,
this was
guys.
great for me. Really exciting.
Well, this was, the honor is all mine. I mean, I am, and funny, 2 weeks ago, I interviewed another author who, it was more of an educational book, but I'm like, I got two authors back to back. But to me, that's such an amazing accomplishment. Congratulations.
Thank you.
there's no doubt you have great success, and maybe we'll have a sequel and in the future, huh?
I'll just write about Larry. Could write a book about that. So.
Well, Larry's a great person too,
Yeah,
and
he's awesome. He's really helped me.
yeah. Well, I really do appreciate and thank you for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
So I thank you so much to everyone who supports our cause and understands how important it is to look out for each other and to empathize with anyone you know dealing with addiction. Let's continue to spread awareness about the dangers of illicit fentanyl and promote harm reduction tools like Narcan and fentanyl test strips. Reach out to us via Instagram at sbu.playitforward for more recommendations. And here's Larry for a few resources and helpful support.
If you're struggling with mental health or substance use, you're not alone. SAMHSA offers services and resources for substance use disorder. 1-800-662-HELP or text HELP for you for support. SAMHSA also has a 24/7 info service at 1-800-487-4889. For additional help, visit Hope House Ministries online at hhm.org or call 631-928-2377. LICAD, Long Island Council on Alcohol and Drug Dependence, offers support and guidance at 631-979-1700, and you'll find more information at LICAD.org. Remember, your journey to healing and recovery can start with that first call. On behalf of Play It Forward, thank you all for listening. We invite you to join us on Instagram at sbu.playitforward and on YouTube, the Play It Forward Project. We hope to hear from you. We hope that our messages reach somebody. So for now and always,
keep playing it forward. All right.